The Philippines has redrawn the defense blueprint of Asia. Once overlooked, the Batanes Islands are now a frontline choke point in the great power rivalry. The Mahatau Forward Operating Base, activated in August 2025, stands as the largest Philippine military outpost in the north, built for territorial defense, maritime vigilance, and as the spearhead of sovereignty in the Luzon Strait. This rise unfolds against the backdrop of the Taiwan flashpoint, where China's naval buildup shows Manila can no longer remain a bystander in future conflict. For the Philippines, this base is a strategic edge, part of an archipelagic defense web, tying Batanes directly into alliance networks with the United States, Australia, and potentially Japan. At the center of it all is the Luzon Strait, one of the few deep-water passages bridging the South China Sea and the Pacific. Here, Batanes is more than islands. It is a tripwire. Any strike here would ripple outward into a larger war. The future holds both promise and peril. Deterrence grows stronger, alliances deepen, and with them comes the weight of Chinese pressure, diplomatic pushback, and the ever-present risk of miscalculation. The symbol cannot be missed. Mahatau Base is not simply an outpost. It is Manila planting its flag in the contest for the Indo-Pacific, preparing for a war it prays never arrives. For centuries, the Batanes Islands sat at the margins of Philippine statecraft, remote, windswept, and defined more by the resilience of the Ivatan people than by military presence. Nestled between northern Luzon and Taiwan, the islands were a cultural gem, but not a defense priority. Yet geography whispered a different truth. A natural maritime gateway, a choke point crossed by ships, submarines, and traders for generations. During the Cold War, Batanes barely registered on defense radar. The Philippine military focused on Luzon and Mindanao, while US strongholds at Subic Bay and Clark Airfield anchored deterrence. With sparse population and rugged terrain, the Batanes archipelago remained largely undefended, its cliffs and coves more a postcard scene than a shield of sovereignty. That began to shift after 2000. As China's navy modernized and gray zone tactics played out in the South China Sea, Manila quietly recognized its northern frontier had become critical. Small navy and marine contingents rotated into Batanes, testing forward presence. A pivotal moment came in 2018, when Philippine and US Marines ran joint reconnaissance on Mavulas Island, the northern tip of the archipelago. Symbolic yet powerful, it marked the first time Batanes was treated as a strategic outpost, rather than a remote community. By 2022, with insurgencies in Mindanao fading, the armed forces of the Philippines redeployed Marines northward. Their mission had shifted. They were no longer training for counterinsurgency. They were scanning the seas, monitoring foreign ships in the Luzon Strait, and preparing for defensive operations in one of Asia's most vital sea lanes. Over the next years, Batanes evolved from peripheral outpost to strategic front line. Analysts began to call it a keystone in the first island chain, the arc stretching from Japan through Taiwan down to the Philippines, long regarded by US planners as a barrier to Chinese naval expansion. By the mid-2020s, as US-China rivalry sharpened, Batanes was no longer forgotten. It had become a square on the chessboard with global stakes, deciding who commands the gateways between the Pacific and the South China Sea. The inauguration of the Mahatau Forward Operating Base in August 2025 is the boldest Philippine investment in Batanes yet. Built on Batanes Island within Mahatau municipality, it stands as the largest and most permanent military facility in the northern frontier. For decades, the islands were an afterthought, remote, underdeveloped, and neglected. Now, geography speaks louder than ever. In the era of great power rivalry, Manila has responded. Mahatau's rise is more than concrete and steel. It is a declaration. The Philippines intends to hold the line in the Luzon Strait. Its position could not be more pivotal. Only 120 miles south of Taiwan, Batanes Island commands the Luzon Strait, the narrow but vital corridor connecting the South China Sea to the Western Pacific. Its Bashi Passage ranks among the most strategic waterways on Earth. It is the path for Chinese submarines entering the Pacific, the artery for US reinforcements in any Taiwan crisis, and the route carrying trade between Northeast and Southeast Asia. By anchoring a major base here, the Philippines has driven a stake into one of the Indo-Pacific's most volatile choke points. Mahatau serves 3 intertwined missions. Its primary role is territorial defense. With hardened shelters, radar towers, and logistics hubs, the base hosts rotating units ready to deter incursions and feed surveillance into allied networks. Its second mission is maritime domain awareness. For years, Chinese Coast Guard and militia ships moved in northern waters with little monitoring. From Mahatau, the Philippines closes that gap, tracking movements through the Luzon Strait and asserting sovereignty by seeing, recording, and responding. Finally, Mahatau is built with humanitarian assistance and disaster response in mind. The Batanes Islands lie in the path of the world's fiercest typhoons and rest on restless seismic ground. Mahatau Base has been engineered with that in mind, with facilities pre-stocked with food, medicine, and relief supplies. Its airstrips and docks are built for helicopters and transport ships. In practice, Mahatau is a dual-use hub designed to serve in both crises of war and disasters of nature. This fusion of defense and relief goes beyond appearance. It is strategic signaling. Philippine defense leaders call Mahatau the gateway for defense and disaster relief. That phrase was chosen with care. It reinforces sovereignty while avoiding any image of aggression. It reassures the public that the base is more than a fortress. It is a lifeline. It signals to allies that Manila is carrying its weight in regional security. And it undermines Beijing's claim that Batanes is being militarized under foreign pressure. Every radar, every supply depot, every dock has a double role: deterring aggression while enabling relief. That duality makes it harder for critics to frame the base as provocation, and easier for Manila to defend its build-up before the international stage. It also reshapes the balance among northern outposts. For years, the tip of the spear was Mavulis Island, only 88 miles from Taiwan. Mavulis, manned by small marine detachments and powered mainly by solar panels, symbolized presence. A statement that the Philippines had not abandoned its northernmost frontier. But the post was rugged and fragile, cut off from support and unable to host major forces. Mahatau changes the picture. A larger, sustainable hub with dependable supply lines, it can anchor Mavulis and the rest of the Batanes chain. Together, they create a layered defense network. Mavulis as the sentinel, Mahatau as the backbone, giving depth and endurance. The combination enhances territorial defense and boosts Manila's credibility with allies, who now see Batanes as a crucial link in the first island chain. The unveiling of Mahatau cannot be separated from the wider regional context, the looming Taiwan flashpoint. The Luzon Strait, which borders the islands to the north, has become one of Asia's most militarized lanes. Chinese Coast Guard cutters, maritime militia swarms, and planned strike groups cross it regularly. Overhead, surveillance aircraft sweep. Below, submarines glide through. For Manila, this is not a distant drama, but an immediate reality. Any Taiwan clash would erupt on its doorstep. Philippine commanders have been direct. In April 2025, AFP Chief of Staff General Romeo Bronner Jr. instructed troops in the north to prepare not only for harassment or grey zone tactics, but for scenarios involving outright invasion. His warning carried weight. The message was unmistakable. The Philippines claims no offensive ambitions, but must prepare for conflict across the strait. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. echoed the point in his speeches, stressing that war over Taiwan would inevitably draw in the Philippines by geography alone. To visualize it, Kaohsiung, a major Taiwanese city, is a 40-minute flight from Lawang in northern Philippines. That is how close it is. If war erupts, the Philippines will be pulled into it. And the president, with hesitation yet certainty, affirmed that sovereignty must be defended. With Batanes only 120 miles from Taiwan, neutrality fades into impossibility. Geography has made the Philippines a stakeholder in the Taiwan question, no matter what it chooses. The urgency grows with the human element. More than 200,000 Filipinos live and work in Taiwan, forming one of the island's largest foreign communities. In war, their evacuation would be a colossal challenge, and bases like Mahatau could become lifelines for staging rescue flights and relief shipments. Philippine defense planners have openly said the protection of overseas workers is central to Northern strategy. The Luzon Strait is not only a front line of conflict, it is a lifeline of survival. Beijing, meanwhile, has condemned the buildup. Chinese officials warn Manila against deepening defense ties with Washington, particularly deployments of missiles and advanced sensors in Batanes. State media portray the Philippines as a pawn, stirring instability in the Taiwan Strait. The more Manila strengthens its frontier, the louder the warnings grow. It reflects a hard reality. Batanes, once neglected, now sits at the core of China's strategic calculations. The Mahatau Base is more than a local facility. It is a keystone of a wider alliance framework stretching across the Indo-Pacific. At the center of that framework is the United States, Manila's oldest ally. Washington has reshaped its drills and deployments for a Taiwan scenario. The annual Balikatan exercise, once centered on counterinsurgency and relief drills, has shifted north. In 2025, for the first time, large-scale maneuvers unfolded in Batanes itself. Philippine and US troops trained shoulder to shoulder in a zone that could one day see real conflict. The message was visible. Balikatan now means Filipino and American forces side by side at the edge of a possible war. The hardware that arrived revealed Washington's intent. US Marines deployed some of their most advanced missile systems, HIMARS, the Navy Marine Expeditionary Ship Interdiction System, and mid-range capability launchers, all able to strike across the Taiwan Strait. These deployments are not yet permanent, but they show Manila's role in America's archipelagic defense plan, designed to block Chinese freedom of movement through the first island chain. In military terms, Batanes and the Luzon Strait have become a natural kill box, a zone where Allied forces can trace and, if required, neutralize Chinese naval assets. Beyond missile firepower, US Marines are training shoulder to shoulder with Filipinos to refine littoral defense. Small unit mobility, rapid dispersal across islands, and the use of coastal terrain for concealment are at the heart of these exercises. Philippine Marines, once jungle fighters, are now training to hold at risk the largest PLA Navy ships, with small but lethal missile teams. Australia has stepped into this theatre as well. Once a supporting partner, Canberra has expanded its role. Exercise Aelon in 2025 brought more than 3,600 Australian and Philippine troops into joint amphibious drills, observed by Japan, the United States and other partners. For Australia, this is not symbolic, it is strategic. Its security is tied to freedom of navigation in the Indo-Pacific. Defending Batanes and the Luzon Strait has become a matter of national interest. The collective aim of these alliances is unmistakable. Deny Beijing free passage through the strait. If China moves against Taiwan, its fleets must pass either through the heavily monitored Mahatau Strait or through Luzon Strait. By hardening the latter with bases, missiles and drills, the coalition is closing one of Beijing's critical routes into the Pacific. For China, it is a tightening noose. For the Philippines, it is proof of solidarity and exposure to risk. The Luzon Strait is no ordinary channel. It is one of the Indo-Pacific's most decisive choke points. Between northern Philippines and southern Taiwan, it offers one of the rare deep-water gateways from the South China Sea to the Pacific. Unlike the tightly watched Mahatau Strait near Okinawa, Luzon Strait provides China's navy with a pathway for submarines, carriers, and surface fleets to reach open waters. Whoever holds influence here controls a vital Chinese lifeline. For Washington and its allies, the same geography offers containment. By integrating Batanes into a wider network of posts, radars, and missile sites, the United States can track, monitor, and, if required, choke Beijing's naval ambitions before they reach the Pacific. The deep waters of the Luzon Strait, perfect for submarine traffic, are also predictable. Only a handful of routes exist, each one now within reach of Allied radar, anti-ship missiles, and patrol aircraft. What once seemed like an open passage is now a defensive shield, where US and Philippine forces can block Beijing's access to the Pacific. Batanes is the linchpin. Only 190 kilometers from Taiwan, these islands stand at the crossroads of critical sea lanes. Any strike, blockade, or campaign of harassment against them would never remain isolated. It would almost certainly trigger the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty, obligating Washington to defend the Philippines. That makes Batanes a tripwire, a forward post whose very exposure ensures that any attack sets off a wider clash involving the United States and possibly other allies. The symbol is as potent as the geography. For Manila, fortifying Batanes is about deterrence. It sends a message to Beijing that any attempt to seize or silence the islands will guarantee escalation. For Washington, it is a credibility test. Failure to defend Batanes would shake confidence in America's security commitments from Manila to Tokyo. And so, these windswept islands, once an afterthought, have become a pivot of Indo-Pacific power. For the Philippines, Mahatau Base delivers both strength and risk. It anchors sovereignty in an exposed frontier, sharpens response to both military threats and natural disasters, and deepens bonds with allies through training, deployments, and real capabilities. Yet the gains carry heavy costs. Beijing is unlikely to stand aside. Pressure may come as economic punishment, diplomatic protests, or intensified harassment of Filipino fishermen and Coast Guard patrols. At home, leaders must balance sovereignty with the dangers of escalation beyond their control. For the wider region, the Luzon Strait is transforming into a militarized frontline of great power rivalry. Once ignored, it now looms as a flashpoint where competition is at its most dangerous. In a Taiwan crisis, the Philippines would no longer be peripheral. It would be a frontline state, its islands staging surveillance, missile systems, and logistics for a coalition preparing for conflict. This carries profound consequences. The Philippines would gain new weight, but also risk becoming an early target of Chinese pressure or strikes. Every patrol, every radar sweep, every drill in Batanes could spark something larger. For alliances, the path is clear: deeper integration. The United States is preparing to preposition advanced missile systems like HIMARS and NEMESIS in Batanes. Australia has expanded Balikatan participation and is likely to deepen its northern presence. Japan, still limited by its constitution, has expressed interest in closer cooperation on surveillance, early warning, and humanitarian response. Together, these moves point to trilateral and even quadrilateral defense networks, binding Manila more firmly to a coalition designed to contain Beijing. The opportunities for technology, infrastructure, and capacity building are real, but they embed the Philippines in the center of a contest it cannot avoid. At the crossroads of this shift stands the Mahatau Base. It is more than a facility. It is the symbol of Manila's rising role and the burdens that come with it. Whether Mahatau becomes a shield that deters or a magnet that draws conflict will depend on how skillfully the Philippines balances deterrence with diplomacy, risk with resolve. It is a stake planted on the edge of Asia's most volatile corridor. What was once a wind-swept frontier is now a hub, not only infrastructure, but intent. A clear statement that the Philippines will defend its northern line, even as storms of rivalry gather overhead. From overlooked islands to a decisive choke point, Batanes has stepped into history as a front line shaping the Indo-Pacific balance of power. Today, geography has pulled it into the center of events. Its proximity to Taiwan, its command over the Luzon Strait, makes it essential in any conflict scenario. If war comes to Taiwan, Batanes will not be a bystander. It will be a battleground. The Philippines faces a sobering reality. Defending Batanes means preparing for a war it hopes never erupts. By turning Mahatau into a forward base, Manila is signaling resolve. Neutrality is no longer possible in the Indo-Pacific's most volatile corridor. The risks are clear: greater hostility from China, deeper exposure to coercion, and the constant possibility of miscalculation. Yet the challenge is to make Batanes both a shield of deterrence and a platform for relief, without allowing it to become the spark that lights a wider war. In the end, Mahatau stands as the emblem of the Philippines' awakening. It is a declaration that the nation will no longer remain a passive spectator in the South China Sea or the Taiwan flashpoint. Batanes is now central to the struggle over sovereignty, freedom of navigation, and the rules of the Indo-Pacific order. The stakes could not be higher. In defending its northern frontier, the Philippines is shaping the future balance of power across the region. If you found this analysis powerful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. For more deep dives into the turning points that define our world today,